Hi, welcome to TELUS STORYHIVE On Location, Revelstoke. I'm Rob Buchanan. We're live in Revelstoke with another incredibly inspiring episode brought to you by TELUS STORYHIVE. Today I'm sitting in Rob Buchanan's studio where we're going to dive into his artwork, his photography, and amongst all the incredible projects that he's got on the go. Rob, thank you for having me.
Nice to meet you, Rob.
It's
Thanks.
nice to meet you, and to dive into your world is going to be mind-blowing for me.
Awesome.
So thank you for having us. Let's start off with who you are and where you're from.
So, as Rob said, I'm Rob Buchanan. I live in Revelstoke, BC. I've been an artist for about 30 years here, and I've worked in many different mediums, including, as you can see behind you, originally editorial photography, and as we carry on up into the studio, you'll see all sorts of other things that have evolved over my 3 decades in Revelstoke.
And being able to just walk into the room and all of a sudden I see these incredible photos and I'm just mind blown. Your journey into photography, how did it start?
So originally, I actually started on a 6-month mountain bike trip through the Caribbean, ending in Bogota, Colombia. Picked up a camera just to document everything and totally fell in love with photography. And then from there, I went to photojournalism school, and then from there, boom, just expanded into all sorts of different projects, just building up my portfolio. So like a lot of these images that you can see here are from, this is the Syrian border, this is Occupy Wall Street in Manhattan. I worked for an NGO in Africa doing malaria research, Costa Rica, oral histories in the Western Arctic, that's a Tibetan refugee camp where they were spinning pashmina into like Mexican musicians, etc.
I love this photo. This is one that I actually took a lot of time just to focus on because there's like grit and beauty all wrapped in one and I love it. Like that's the joy of being a photographer.
Exactly. And it's the moments too, to really try to capture all of these moments. That's what brings me the most joy.
I love it. There's a lot of beauty in what you do and you have a really unique eye, which is what really struck me as your photography.
Thanks, Rob.
You find nowadays photography can be a little like I was saying off camera, it can be almost a little intimidating when you're trying to do street photography and take photos of people without them knowing it to capture that moment. Because nowadays everybody's like, you almost have to ask that. I think the phrase that I've heard is it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission as a photographer.
Sure. I don't, to be honest, for me, I actually would rather spend time with the subject first and kind of build a rapport with them. There are times where there's an instant moment and you really just have to be there for it. But if I had my choice, I would like get to know this person, listen to their stories, they get to know me, and then maybe after a few hours of conversation or days or months or whatever, that's really where the magic starts to happen, where you can really
I like that.
delve into their personalities.
I love it. This photo has so much behind it.
Yeah.
Just like the look, the framing, everything is just beautiful.
Well, I mean, the other thing for me too is 30 years ago, it wasn't digital photography. It was slides and film and wet dark rooms. And, I got 36 frames on a roll. So you slow down a little bit, so you're not constantly changing film or bringing so much film. So the evolution to where we are now it's a bit astounding to have gone from there to here. I definitely prefer digital now in terms of any darkroom type work.
Yeah, fair. It saves you so much hassle and
Yeah.
effort. Do you find that going from darkroom to editing programs has been a weird transition?
No, not really, because I think in the beginning, a lot of the designers in Photoshop and Lightroom were working photographers, or there's just so much connection. Like you have a dodge and burn tool. I don't know if many new photographers, exploring the software, know the history of that and the connection to like Ansel Adams and the zone system and just this history of photography. So there's still so many tools that are related to it.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you bring that up. I don't even know how many modern photographers would even know Ansel Adams. You know what I mean? Like,
it's true. Or the zone system, right?
Yeah,
or even, what you're trying to achieve necessarily with a beautiful black and white photograph.
That's one I absolutely love. That's why I think I'm really drawn to those two up top.
Yeah.
Something about black and white that just says a lot more than color in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I find when you're editing, it's almost a different approach at it too, right? Because you're dealing with highlights and shadows versus
and shooting.
colors. Yeah.
Like if I know I'm shooting black and white, like I just approach the scene differently too.
Okay. That's a good way to.
It just has a different emotion. There's a time and place for everything. And sometimes if you know what you're trying to achieve before you begin is just like such a good start. But I really love contrast too. Like even in this image, you know, it's really black, but you see this like white spur from the cowboy's boot in Costa Rica. And I don't know, just things like that just really appeal to me. I love shadows and reflections. I love framing up images. And I really love moments with emotion.
And I think you are really good at capturing those, which is kind of like a really hard skill to build as a photographer. Because like we were talking about, you got kind of be present in the moment, but you're also like, you got a million and one things to look at all times while you're trying to take these photos and capture these moments. And these are just a handful. I can imagine that there's like millions of photos that
I do probably have about 200,000 photos.
Yeah, I would not be surprised.
In my archives from the last 30 years from all around the world, all different styles of projects.
I love this, the Mexican performers. I love the face on the drummer.
I do too.
He's just like, I kind of just want to go home.
You can almost hear the out-of-tune guitar.
I love it. And the experiences that you've had as a photographer getting to travel the world, were they, when you started off, was it self-funded or did you end up,
don't worry about that. Let's leave
knocking the paintings down? Was it self-funded?
A bit of both. You know, it was, there was definitely some self-funded trips. There were some trips that were related to maybe product companies. There were some trips that were related to assignments from different magazines or national parks or things like that.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And I'm like, as a photographer, like a lot of us think that we got to like find the niche.
Yeah.
And I think that you found the perfect job for a photographer, which was telling stories, because that is really
that's
what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think photography is a tool for telling stories.
And you managed to do it. Even this one, like I was mentioning, this one right here. It's just a long exposure shot in Amsterdam, but it speaks volumes.
Right.
If you understand it.
Right, exactly.
And that's where it's like, I like night photography, but it's almost intimidating.
Yeah, and then just experimenting with different like photography is stop. You know, stop the motion, but what if you don't stop it? What if there's all sorts of opportunities for shutter drags or long exposures, different, and then kind of putting two things together in the same shot too.
And then graduating to painting. How was that transition going?
Painting, well, ever since I was a kid, I definitely drew. I was the kid in the back of the classroom doing caricatures of my teacher, or, you know, under the covers, drawing comic book characters. So drawing always came naturally to me, but painting was actually an evolution from photography, because after, you know, a decade or so of photography, you start to maybe get into a bit of a template, and I really want to make sure I broke out of that template quite often. So what I wanted to do is reinterpret some of my photographs as paintings, and instead of them being realistic, like I would rather go towards abstract, and instead of using a paintbrush to draw, I had to relearn how to use a paintbrush to paint. So like bold strokes, put a stroke on, don't touch it again, no blending, no gradients, like things that were so different than photography. And then, you know, the benefit of that is when I go back to photography, I've sort of changed my mindset of the templates so that I can keep the medium of photography fresh too.
So like you had mentioned, you've evolved as a photographer, now you're starting to become more of a landscape photographer. Is that because you're painting now and that's
maybe
kind of what you're going after?
Yeah, maybe. I like spending more time in a moment, in a scene, rather than like portraiture, editorial work, sports photography. It's very quick, and I think as I've gotten older, I really like staying in a scene longer and waiting for magical light or different compositions to emerge, or just spending more time in a particular place.
I like that. I think that's a beautiful concept to evolve from photography to painting, because also understanding lighting and shadows. As a photographer, you're coming into it with like this extreme knowledge of lights, shadows, and dynamics of colors and gradients. And
I'll tell you that what I think is the main difference is I think in photography you start with a complicated scene and you need to edit it down to a subject. It's much more of a subtractive process. And in painting, you start with a blank canvas and you add to it. It's an additive process. So it just is a different mindset of how you approach, the final product of what you're trying to achieve. Like one you're just creating out of nothing. The other one you're editing everything down to something. So
does that become at all tricky when you're bouncing back between the two?
No, I don't think so.
You just got it down.
I think then, after years of practice, then I start to, as a photographer, I start to use more of an additive process to it.
Okay.
Rather than a subtractive process. It might sound a little academic, but that's kind of what's going on in my head.
No, I think it's
I might be recreating a scene rather than reacting to a scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where is this tree located?
This is actually on the Niagara Escarpment in Ontario.
Okay.
And again, to me, it's just one of those moments of like timing and perfect light. This big storm was coming in off Lake Huron, and I was just driving around the countryside, and someone, not me, had done this piece, and it was lit so beautifully, and I just loved, sort of this juxtaposition of bikes growing in trees, but also like family tree too, because they're all different age, bikes that people of different ages would use.
I like that.
Yeah. But it was just a moment, and then the light was gone, and that was it. So
right. That's the one thing I've love and hate about photography too, is you see it, you got to get the camera out. By the time you get the camera out, 90% of the time that lighting is gone, and you're like, oh!
Yeah.
So that's where we were speaking with Doug Drew, and a photographer friend, and he, never leave your house without your camera.
Right.
Always have it, and that's one thing I'm like trying to teach myself. Is this charcoal?
This is charcoal, yeah. And it was just a study of, again, I was really trying to, it's a study in values and anatomy and emotion. And I actually really like tactile parts of art too. So like this one, there's lots of smudging with fingers and different tools, and you're right in there. Your hands are filled with charcoal, and there's just something, I don't know, just so real about it. But then even over here, this is a total different departure again.
I love this piece.
This is the Grizzlamingo, and it was like this is a little test I do all the time just to keep myself fresh. It's kind of inspired by Napoleon Dynamite and his Liger. But for this is I would have stacks of National Geographic magazines, and I would flip to a page, and there's a flamingo, and I'd flip to the next page, and there's a grizzly bear, and my goal for that day, a little test, was put the two together, draw them together, and see what happens. So I have a whole, series of all these little practice pieces like that, just to kind of keep things fresh. Practice drawing. I
like that. I think that's a valuable skill to have, is to constantly push yourself with unique ideas.
Yeah.
We were speaking with someone while we were here. I just can't remember who it was, but they kind of do the same thing where they like give themselves these weird tests to see if they can do it. Yes, Jacques, he does it.
Yeah, well, I think that's important, and I also think that the practice is important, just for technical ability, and even just to be able to see things in different perspectives. Like to write a poem a day, the first one might be terrible, but by day 365, your poetry is great.
I like that. It's a great way to view art.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people are very hard on themselves about constantly trying to put art out.
Well, I don't think you should ever attempt to create a masterpiece. That's not the right approach.
It's a great way.
You should attempt. You're not attempt. There is no attempt. You should just make something. And if it turns out to be a masterpiece, well, that's great. But that's not really what you're trying to do. It's just this process, and it's another step. And you take a step in year one, and 30 years later, you look back where all those steps have led, and you're just amazed at how art has, I don't know, affected you and become so much of your identity.
That's true. And that's one thing that I've really started to realize as I've grown into, like with the show, speaking with different types of artists and watching their skill sets and the different mediums they work with, because like it's hard to put yourself in a perspective of somebody else's mind unless you're visually seeing how their mind works. And
right.
With artists who are multifaceted like yourself, like I see your photography and I'm like, okay, I understand his photography mind. But then I see your paintings and I'm like,
how did you get from there to there?
Get from point A to point B? And then all of a sudden you see your sculptures and like
yeah.
you have just so many skill sets, and it's like, where's the limit for you?
Well,
I don't think there is a limit.
Yeah, I mean, I would tell you that I think the most important part of being an artist is to not forget a sense of play. Like everybody might be very structured on what they want to create, but some of my favorite art that I've ever seen is created by kids. And they don't have all the parameters and the baggage that maybe we attach to art today. And instead they just make something. There's no judge. They just have pure joy making something beautiful. And I think in terms of things that I've done and people I know have done, it's just if you keep this sense of play, then you can try different mediums, and you just, it's curiosity and discovery, and I think that's what it's all about.
I think you managed to achieve that too with the new pieces of work that you have in here that you're showing us, and it's like you have this very youthful joy about what you create, like with the Revelstoke.
Right.
Like these things, there's these like unique concepts that fly through your brain, and then you create them, and they become these like beautiful pieces of art. But that all stems, you said, from overhearing somebody.
Well, that's the other thing too. Like, again, a sense of play and maybe a bit of mischief. And this whole series started, I was standing in a lineup at a coffee shop, and some people in front of me were using the word Revelstoke. It's a town I live in, but for some reason my brain heard it as Revelstoke, and I was like, that's a weird thing to say. And then I thought, oh, wait a minute, that's cool. What if we reinterpreted all these iconic rebels, cinematic or real life, in kind of Revelstoke scenes? So all of a sudden we have Che Guevara with a bike helmet just coming off some of our mountain bike trails. Of course, you can't have a rebel without James Dean, rebel without a cause, and he's in his signature pose, cool as James Dean can be. But in a gondola on Revelstoke Mountain Resort, over here, Freddie Mercury, ultimate rebel, but I've kind of reinterpreted him with an ice axe, and he's just about to summit Mount Begbie, which is our iconic mountain that everyone sees from town. And then the fourth piece in the series too is Princess Leia. But again, Princess Leia, rather than riding a speeder through an Ewok forest, I've taken a photograph of another friend of ours who's a professional snowmobiler, and stenciled it, and then just taken her head and swapped it out with Princess Leia and created a whole new scene. And these are very playful. They're sort of like Banksy stencils. And it's not how I work all the time, but it's how this project appeared in my head of like the right tool to use for this concept. Like compared to some of the other paintings that I've done in here too, that are maybe more traditional landscapes, or maybe not. Like for this one, I just wanted it to be, I was inspired by the ski history of Revelstoke and the ski train that used to come by, and the scenes of the train station and the joy of all these, historic skiers getting off. But I didn't really want to do it like a beautiful, realistic painting. I might as well use a photograph. So in this case, most of it I did with like big putty knives and trowels, and just throwing paint on and just seeing what would happen from it, like mixing colors that maybe traditionally wouldn't have gone together. Whereas over here, These pieces are more results of like they're Art Deco. It's 1920s, and they speak to the nostalgia of old travel posters and advertising campaigns that the CPR would have when the train came through with all of our visitors.
This reminds me of a postcard.
Yeah, and again, this is gouache paint. Like, I haven't really ever used gouache paint. What the heck's gouache paint? Well, it's time to learn what gouache paint is and how it mimics the seriographs of the Art Deco period, you know? But I do really like one of the things that I like to do when I paint is I kind of have a bit of a rule in my head is once a stroke is on the canvas, like, you can't touch it again. It's done. You know, you can't go back and correct it. And I like to see evidence of process in there too. Like I like to see how all the bristles move and different pieces like that.
There's so much to
Yeah.
comprehend when you're in here.
And
too.
it's so, you know, just to learn how oil paint sits on a canvas compared to how acrylic sits on a canvas to watercolor, and maybe how can I get techniques that you would use in watercolor, but how can I glean that out of acrylic paint too. So again, I come back to the concept of play and just be curious and keep trying different things all the time, and it just keeps it fresh. And then even if you go back to maybe your quote an original discipline, it just keeps all of those things fresh too.
I love it. When you're
Charcoal.
yeah,
Again, lots of charcoal. This is a historic character from the Revelstoke area, Alex McRae. We have a peak named after him. And I don't know why, but I decided to mix like linseed oil and charcoal and Conte together just to see what would happen and how that charcoal would start to flow. I'm not sure I would do it again, but it was a really fun experience, and it has a particular feel to it. Compared to this piece, which again, you know, I started out, this is another abstract painting of one of our mountains, Mount Cartier. And I just wanted to choose a totally different color palette for it, and the emotions of it. But again, I wanted the underpainting to show through, and I just wanted to use big, bold brush strokes and see what happens.
It's absolutely amazing to see the variety that you're able to achieve. Like, this is probably, I love the color palette of this. Like, what you chose as the background.
Yeah.
Is like, love that color.
And again, this is a scene that many people in Revelstoke would be familiar with. This is Mount Mackenzie. There's a ski hill here. This is Mount Cartier. This is the Columbia River. And of course, we live in Revelstoke. There's beautiful mountains everywhere. You can't not be inspired by landscape. But again, because I can take photographs, I don't want the painting to look like a photograph. I want it to look like a painting.
And that's
So, and some of that starts with just exploring different color palettes.
There's a hidden photo down here that is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Oh my.
I know, isn't that great? I really love street photography too, and moments.
You're so good at it.
Yeah, but you know what I really love about it is just being, like, it's hard to do street photography if you're in motion all the time. So one of my favorite things to do would be to sit on a park bench for like hours and just watch what comes by, right? And look for moments of emotion and timing and maybe a composition that exists. And yeah, like, I don't know, I think this is a really fun moment. This is in New York City.
That is an absolutely beautiful photo.
Thank you.
And that's where I'd like it when I walked in and got to see your photography up close and not just like,
Yeah.
like I said, online doesn't really justify when you're seeing the artwork or the work that you do. 'Cause
Yeah, here's more photography down here. This is a doctor I worked with in Malawi in sub-Saharan Africa. You know, this guy was so funny. But I really liked the scene because, you know, in our modern day hospitals and emergency rooms, like they don't really look like this. You know, he looks like he's about to get beamed up in an old steampunk Star Trek
Love it.
type device. Yeah, but I do like over here in terms of photography. Like I really love shadows. Like
yes.
that just
That is.
there's
where
something
is that?
about this is in Quebec City.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Lower Quebec City. So there's something magical about shadows and reflections.
That is a very unique photo with all the umbrellas.
Yeah, this is another Revelstoke one that you didn't see earlier. That's Clint Eastwood.
Clint
And
Eastwood was awesome.
he's paddleboarding with some other friends that do paddleboard yoga.
That's awesome.
So just to put the two together is pretty funny, you know. Or the decisive move in Amsterdam, you know. These guys were so into chess.
So funny.
Yeah.
It's that's what I like about photography too, and being an artist, you kind of get to, especially with photography, you get to take that step back, like we were saying, and be in the moment where you're focused on sitting on a park bench and observing people for 4 hours until you see, oh, that's the shot.
That's the shot.
And then it's like,
yeah.
that moment cannot be replaced.
No, exactly. You know, there's so many moments in my head of photographs I didn't take because...
They're for you.
Yeah, I think so.
I tend to say that too. I'll have
Yeah.
my camera out and I just look at it. I'm like, I'm just zooming, I'm focusing, and all of a sudden I'm just like, put the camera down. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna this one's for me. I tend to say that a lot with like, because I like to do sunsets and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's like you'll get photos of beautiful sunsets, and you can always do that. But then there's sometimes where you gotta just like take a step back and be like, this is my sunset.
Exactly.
I'm enjoying this one. This one's for me.
This isn't a postcard. This is my
Yeah.
moment.
And that's where it's like I like the photography style that I showed you, where it's like you're coming up with these weird framings that are like
Yeah.
most people wouldn't see.
Exactly.
Or like birds, because like you have that fleeting moment while the bird lands, looks at you, you take the photo, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
And like the amount of times I've like sat and waited for the perfect shot of this bird, and then all of a sudden I get it, they're in focus, and as I'm gonna go, like, and you're like, that is what
That
it
was
is.
it.
That
was
is what it
it.
is.
It
I
was a
missed my
moment.
moment. And
Yeah.
like that right there can be super challenging, but it's also more like of a push.
Yeah.
Like I got to get better at what I do, quicker, be faster. I'm
Yeah.
more in the moment, so I see it quicker. And
Yeah.
do you find that that has helped you? That skill in photography has helped you with taking that step back with your artwork? So just breathe
That's a good
and
question.
relax.
So like okay, I'm going to do a kind of a bit of a departure here because we've been talking about painting, we've been talking about photography, but one of the things that I really like to do right now is like assemblage art, and it's like taking found objects and reimagining them into new things, or even maybe not found objects, but objects that are retired and ready to go to the landfill, and maybe they're not ready to go to the landfill. And especially in a town like Revelstoke, which is a ski town, there's a lot of ski waste, let's say. So there's a lot of skis and snowboards that are going to the dump. There's ski goggles that are going to the dump. And this painting, this is Magritte. And I kind of keep this around all the time. And it's basically a painting of the pipe. In English, it says, "This is not a pipe." And you're like, what do you mean it's not a pipe? It looks like a pipe to me. But I think the real question is, well, if it's not a pipe, like, what is it? And then if you start to answer that, then you start to think of it changes your mindset of what these things can be reinterpreted or reimagined or rediscovered as. Obviously, it's a painting of a pipe, but he's kind of asking the question, what else can it be? And when I interpret that, especially when it comes to like skis, like I'm about to start another piece, and that is, this is not a ski. So if it's not a ski, what else is it? And even all of these letters, these are letters that have been cut out from skis.
Love it.
Right? So as this ski, which is, probably had so much fun on the mountain and brought someone so much joy, like, what's its next life? And can you like cut up letters and make poetry out of old skis? And what myself and my colleague Jess Leahy and a group of other artists in Revelstoke right now is we really are trying to turn our ski resort into like a big, huge ski-through art gallery. And a lot of the pieces that we put up there have direct connections to the ski industry. Whether it's a gallery, we call it the Masterpiece Gallery. It's a fun play on words because you should never lose your sense of play. But there's 22 pieces in this one gallery, and you ski through, but they are all made out of ski waste, really. And when I say ski waste, there's so many memories in all of these different pieces, because each piece might be cut from 150, 200, 250 pieces of skis, and those skis have been donated to me because the people have really strong attachments to them. You know, they taught their kids how to ski on it. They skied on it themselves. They brought it from another country. They had crashes. They had joy, all these different things. And then to reinterpret it in a piece of art, it's not just me who's making the piece of art. Every little piece of ski and P-Tex and top sheet in there, it has its own story and its own personality. And now all the people that have donated these pieces to me, it's their art too. They've created it just as much as I've created it. So you can see why I get really kind of jazzed up about reinterpreting things that have brought people so much fun and joy.
The Vermeer one is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
The way that the snowboard the tail comes out and the two skis come down.
Yeah, exactly. So some of these pieces are in the alleys because we have reimagined our back alleys as outdoor art galleries. Some of them are on the ski hill on an old cat track that you can ski through. And again, I like to add little playful word twists to it, you know, so it's not the girl with the pearl earring, it's the girl with the P-Tex earring, which is the base of a ski, you know, and it's not, that's not Picasso's Le Rêve, that's Pablo Picatsky's Le Revelstoke, right?
Love it.
So there's all these fun little things that just kind of make me giggle as I'm making them, because they are very hard to make.
When you guys started creating the concept of the art galleries,
yeah,
where did that come from? Because being a tourist in your guys' town and getting the opportunity to walk through the alleys and see all these incredible pieces of artwork.
Yeah.
There's so much talented artwork. Like if you come to Revelstoke, make sure you check out the alleys, because like what they've created is mind-blowing. And not just like a handful of artists, like they have all the artists working together creating these beautiful...
And in multiple disciplines too.
Yeah.
I think that was the genesis of it was we ran and still run a large art festival, like a nocturnal art festival.
Is Luna?
It's Luna.
Okay.
And all of these artists, they spend so much time making all of this beautiful work, but it only exists for 6 hours, and then it's done. And so the group of us were thinking, well, how can that live on after? How can we create a legacy out of this festival into things that, you know, are here forever and inspire residents, visitors, etc. Let's take the alleys. And the alleys are actually perfect pedestrian corridors because they're so skinny already. You don't have two-way traffic in there. They're kind of forgotten. It's not main, like the front of a building where the storefronts are. And they're accessible. They're open all the time. They're free. Anyone can go there. You know, you could put a wheelchair through there. Kids in little run bikes can go through there. You can go there in the rain. You can go there in the snow. You can go there at 2 o'clock in the morning, because in order for it to really resemble an art gallery, you have to have lights. So there's solar panels on buildings. Solar panels basically generate light, and the art galleries are open all night long to go wander through. My favorite time to go is when it's raining or snowing and you're leaving little footprints in the snow as you're walking through an outdoor art gallery. Another really strong component to that is there's a lot of towns that do beautiful mural festivals. That's great, but we have, Revelstoke is filled with artists right now. It's like exploding with creativity, and I think to just limit it to murals, you know, we can go farther. And so the pieces that exist out there now, you know, they showcase blown glass, stained glass, blacksmiths, metalwork. There's some kind of traditional street art. There's assemblage pieces. There's photography. And we're about to introduce this year 2 new disciplines that we don't have, which I think will really capture the community voice. And it's poetry and printmaking. So we did a call out through Arts Revelstoke, which is, the body that oversees so many fun things in this town. And the call out was for Revelstoke poets. It's another one of those little underlying disciplines that you don't know exists until you explore. And when you do that, we have poems from kids in grade 2 or 3. We have poems from seniors. We have poems from people who have lived here for 40 years. We have poems from people that have been here for maybe 2 years. And they capture the essence of, what Revelstoke is to them. And then we mirror them with, there's a new group in town that are exploring printmaking. So like relief cuts, block printing, screen printing. And now the 2 disciplines get together, and the poet hangs out with the block printer, and they inspire each other, and the block printer creates work that complements the poem. And then all throughout the corridor of art galleries, we'll have 10 more pieces. It's called Pausing for Poetry. And then we've added 2 new disciplines and 20 new artists to the scene too.
Wow. And it's mind-blowing getting to walk down them. The first ones we saw were just behind the Chesterfield. So there's Susanna's, I believe.
Yep.
And the ravens out of spoons. And like, I have a friend back home who does the same kind of style of art. So I sent him a photo. I'm like, bro, we got to do this in Penticton.
Yeah.
You got to get this going. Cause
and it's kind of a bridge too.
It's so gorgeous.
Zu's another talented artist that we have in town who's been making art forever. And she really wanted to bridge. There's a bike shop on one side, and there's a hotel and restaurant on the other. And again, it's like found objects and assemblage art. Like, how can she take items from one and items from the other and put these 2 things together? So, very beautiful.
She did really amazing. And then you go to the local collab, the art collab, and you see her paintings, and you're like, wait, she's not just a metal artist, she's a painter. And it's like, it's where I've realized now that diving into the Revelstoke art scene, not one of you is just stuck in one medium. You're all multifaceted. And that's, to me, that's like, you've never seen that before.
I think it still comes right back to like a sense of play, and so many people are drawn here by play in the landscape, whether it's skiing or snowboarding or biking or paddling or whatever. They love play, and that just continues into their work.
And it's definitely a mind-blowing skill set to see that you have, from not only photography, telling stories, but being able to tell stories on a different level through artwork.
Yeah.
And like you said, play and being slightly childish by coming up
with
these like
look at this.
Ideas.
How fun is this?
Yes.
So again,
please do not lick the chairlifts.
Exactly. Yeah. This is our PSA. Sense of play. I found tongues, silicone tongues. It was mostly for Halloween costumes, etc. And I instantly ordered 200. And our first piece on the ski hill with the tongues was a chairlift, and we covered the chairlift with tongues. As like a really fun photo op. It looked like fungus was growing off of this old chairlift. That wasn't a functional chairlift. It was a chairlift that was a bench. And so all kinds of people had all kinds of fun with it. But live and learn, we put it just outside a bar. Probably not a good idea. So eventually, all of the playfulness of the clients removed all of the tongues.
Right. They needed a memory.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. That's the genius that hides behind your eyes. You know what I mean? Like, you have this, you see things differently, and I think that's where the uniqueness of your being an artist comes out. But also because you've had to deal with serious moments in the past, right? Like you've seen some intense things, and to be able to understand light and dark, you have to be through both.
Yeah,
so
right.
I think that being able to like bring this joy to a ski hill where it's like, oh, don't like the chairlift, right? Like,
Don't like the chairlift.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But, like, and that's, I can't remember last year when I saw it, but there was a sign that said, don't pet the bears.
Don't pet the bears.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, that is Revelstoke. Like, there's nothing that, don't pet the bears. Like, first day we were here, there was 2 bears just side of the road staring at people.
Right.
Like, where are we right now?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Is this even a real place? Because it's so unique.
Yeah, it really is. It's a mountain paradise. I mean, most people come for the landscape and the scenery, maybe the sport, but maybe it's just the geographical isolation of Revelstoke. It takes longer to get here. And when people come, they fall in love with the place and they don't leave. And really the real joy of Revelstoke is the people and the community and all the different communities and how everyone interacts together and helps each other. And, their definition of home is so much different than other places. Their home is everywhere. Their home is the ski hill, it's the Rogers Pass, it's the Columbia River. And I mean, it just gets reflected in how all the creatives that are showing up are building stuff. And I do think too that maybe compared to other communities, there's a real good sense of collaboration amongst the artists in Revelstoke because they're working in so many different mediums, because they're exploring so many different mediums, and because everyone's having so much fun. Like it's a very collaborative place.
Over your time as a photographer, painter,
Assemblage artist, installation artist.
Just a creative genius. You're over your years as a creative genius. What's been the most difficult hurdle for you to overcome?
Ooh, most difficult. Well, there's always technically difficult hurdles. Like we made a sculpture out of Jello once. Very difficult to do, but amazing. There was a friend. She's a brilliant chef and chemist, and she made the mistake of telling me she developed this formula for industrial Jello, and then I thought, oh, we need to make something out of Jello. What can we make? And I was thinking, Jello, Michelangelo. We should make David. So we made like a life-size blue David out of sculpture for one of the art festivals here, and it was hilarious. So technically that was very difficult to do.
Was it edible?
It's edible, but you end up removing the sugars, so it tastes terrible.
Oh, okay.
And even, it's kind of funny because when you start out in a medium, you're just like, wow, does anyone else do this? Like, can I learn from anyone else? And we researched industrial Jello sculptures. Surely Disney's making sculptures out of Jello. No. Nobody's making sculptures out of Jello. And then you make one and you realize, why? Because we had an armature inside. It was like 170 pounds of Jello. And we had to make a mold of one of our friends who was a very fit guy. And we made it out of packing tape, which was crazy. That was a whole other ordeal. And then the Jello, eventually, because that particular night, there must have been 1,000 people that wandered around to look at this. So it got really hot in there. And as the room temperature started to rise, the Jello started to like ooze down. And then it became this really fun performance art piece where people just sat and watched until David just turned into a puddle, a big puddle of blue Jello. So hilarious. So that's definitely one of the hard technical things to do. But I would say, learning confidence with taking portraits is one of the most challenging things to do. Because you're really asking so much of that subject to give to you for an intimate moment. And there might be a part of you that thinks you're exploiting them a little bit. And that's why I think it's so important to spend time with them and build a rapport with them and have this, this two-way conversation that happens both visually and literally. And it takes a lot of practice to get to that stage.
I like it because that is definitely, I think confidence as a photographer is definitely a hard one.
Yeah.
And especially if you're a street photographer, you have to, like you said, make that initial relationship between you and your subject. And sometimes that can be difficult if the subject is, say, if you're trying to take a photo of a homeless person and they don't want that attention on them, right? Like things like that. We were talking with Doug Druin, a photographer from Penticton, And his favorite photo that he's taken is this picture of like a beautiful girl in a pencil skirt. And she's not the focus, but she's right up front. She's your foreground. But in the background, there's this homeless guy petting a cat. And it's just like this moment.
Beautiful moment.
Beautiful. And he's like, I don't know if I'm allowed to print that.
Yeah,
you know,
do
like,
you have
he's
permission to do that?
But it's
Do
like
you-
he's that moment was like, it was so beautiful. He's like, I just had to capture it, and that photo was for me.
Yeah.
But it's like that moment is like, that is a moment that I feel like more people should see the human that's hiding in the background and nobody notices.
Yeah, and I think maybe that person in the background, if he knew what the photographer was doing, that he would totally appreciate it. He would love it. Like I've seen things at our Lunar Art Festival that has kind of blown my socks off. There was one particular time, and you know, again, there's maybe 8,000 people that are about to show up for an event. And there's a lot of work that goes into the art. And as one of the coordinators, you show up really early to make sure all the details are sorted out. And there was a space where one of our metal artists was about to put a big metal sculpture. And I showed up at 6 a.m. and there's a homeless guy sitting there. And my first reaction was like, like how's this gonna work? Like we're putting a piece of art there. But I didn't say anything. I just carried on. I had a very busy day. And then I came back a few hours later, and the metal artist had shown up, and he had a 500-pound sculpture, and he was by himself. And he had a small little crane truck to try and install it. And I walked up, and sure enough, this homeless guy and the blacksmith know each other by names, and they are friends now, and he's helping Kyle put the sculpture in, and I'm just like, wow, what just happened? And then that night after the event, you know, everybody goes home, we clean the streets, a lot of work, I go past the bus shelter, the guy's sleeping in the bus shelter again, and I think like, I'm really questioning how I'm feeling right now. And then I show up the next morning, and he's there. And, you know, I said like, hey, thanks so much for helping out. And he's like, oh yeah, Kyle's coming again at 10:30 and I'm going to help him unload. And they did. And the blacksmith drove away and the homeless guy went his way. And for this moment in time, these two people came together through art. That was unbelievable.
I love that. And that's like one of those moments that you got to capture. You didn't have to capture it. It was for you.
Just for me.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I like about being
It also teaches us, you know, not to judge and to see things through different perspectives, and I don't know, to opportunity.
It's a very beautiful moment, and I think that being witness to that also kind of just shows how the beauty in Revelstoke, the people that are here, there's something different. There's something deeply embedded within the people who live here that is very like community.
Yeah,
which is what's lacking in the rest of everywhere else in the world right now is a sense of community.
Maybe, yeah.
I think since like we've all had to like we all closed off for a few years, and then as we branched back out into the world, we fully didn't branch back out. You know what I mean? We kept to our little groups, and like talking to a stranger is intimidating now. You know what I mean? And it's like that's how we build our communities, and that's why I think Revelstoke, the amount of people that have come up to us and just talked to us, they're like, "Oh, where are you guys from?"
Yeah.
I'm like, Penticton? Like, well, I'm not used to that. Being a person who's from a tourist town, I don't go out of my way to talk to people who come to town, right? Like, I'm like, you're here on vacation. You do your thing, I do my thing. So to come to Revelstoke, it's been a complete 180 from my brain.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
oh, that's great to hear.
going back home now, I'm like, I kind of want to start asking people their stories.
Yeah.
Where are you from? Why are you in Penticton? Like, what brought you here? Because like I don't want to say the investigative journalist, the journalist in me, but like that's at the end of the day, that's what I am. I tell stories.
Sure.
I guess I'm a journalist, so to tell stories is what I want to do. But getting to speak with creative people is the stories I'm telling, and hearing the perspectives from you guys.
It's true, but I think it's really, there's something about Revelstoke where it's, I mean, I learned very quickly you can't judge a person based on your initial, interaction with that person. Like another story is, I was in a metal shop, and there was a big husky dude in there, and he's a heavy duty mechanic, and his hands look like bear paws, and he's covered in grease, and he's welding away. And I didn't meet him, I just saw him, and like, okay, that's a mechanic. And then that night, there was another music festival, and I go out, and this guy's playing a saxophone. He's like on the stage with a band playing a saxophone with these big bear mitts again, and you're just thinking like, I didn't see that, you know? And I think Revelstoke and the people of Revelstoke will surprise you every time.
Mm-hmm. And I think they do. We got two interviews left. So 8 people, including yourself, and every single one of them has been beyond humble and welcoming to us. They're multi-talented in different concepts, arts, mediums, even the way they think or have their lifestyle has been completely unique and different from everyone else. And then you just hear this like reoccurring statement that it's just this area brings so much like peace and joy that they're just like, I could never leave.
I don't know what it is. If we could bottle it.
Like we interviewed a guy yesterday who literally came here in May. Or he came to visit, I think in March with his spouse. And by May they had bought a house. Because they're like, we're not going back to Ontario. Like we came here to visit to get away from the city and realized we're overstimulated in the city. And like as an artist, he's like, I want to be here. So he just gave up everything, moved here.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that's like the 5th person I've met that said that.
My origin story in Revelstoke is my girlfriend at the time, now wife. We were living in a van. We were ski bums traveling all around, skiing every mountain we could find, and we pulled into Revelstoke, and the van broke down, and it never started again, and we never left. We were just
Revelstoke.
Exactly, and you know,
Similar thing happened to Shop.
yeah, I reiterate, like it's you're attracted for scenery, which brings recreation, and then you meet the people, and it's like, this is it. It's home.
With the art galleries and the ski through gallery that you and Jess are working on with your team, the rest of your team, what else are you guys planning on?
Oh, that's a good
got
question.
some amazing things on the go in your mind.
We do. I think maybe you'll just have to come out in the winter and ski through with us, and we'll show you.
I would love to. I haven't been on a board in 20 years.
Yeah, let's say right now we have 55 plus pieces on the hill. They're all very different, all unique. Some of them are grouped together into like a hub installation. Some of them are independent pieces. I mean, we just really love how snow and winter interacts with everything up there.
Are they currently up there right now?
They are, because by the time we get them up there, they're really challenging to get down. Like some of them we've used crane trucks to install. Oh, wow. So we leave them up there for the winter. We come protect them and leave them up there.
Are they accessible during the summer to see? Or is it strictly
it's not the same, because it's easy to ski around and side slip or snow plow past a piece. But in the summer, you know, it might be in the middle of the forest and there's logs and everything else. So it's not a summer offer. It's more of a winter offer. But again, there's, you know, 100,000 plus, 150,000 plus people that visit that venue every year. And, you know, New York might have Times Square for people to go through, but we have a beautiful ski hill where there's snow and gravity. And so to put those two together and to like totally reimagine a ski hill into something more than just a ski hill, it's kind of like, this is not a ski, that's not a ski hill, that's not an alley. Well, what else are they?
And I like that. I think that's where your guys' genius really shines.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, to date, up there we have, well, there's Jess and I and our pieces. I think we have 16 other, you know, professional artists in town that have contributed. And then we've also done a project with a bunch of grade 3s who teamed up with a bunch of grade 6s. So there's another 40 kids. Like the amount of contribution to that project in the last, 4 years it's astounding. And it just offers another level of what Revelstoke is to people that are visiting, or a reminder to people that live here that it's a place of loads of creativity, imagination, and a sense of play.
It's mind-blowing. I keep joking about it. It's like I think we've heard there's like 10,000 people in Revelstoke, and like my view is like 8,000 of them are creatives.
Yeah.
Like the entire town is just creative.
Well, I mean, you might not have even touched on like the culinary arts here, like the chefs, and the baristas, the distillers, you know, the people that are making delicious cocktails and beer, and like it just, I don't know, it feels like everybody's not afraid to experiment a little bit and to see where it takes them.
And I think that's what fuels evolution. And that at the core is artists. And I always tend to like bring this back as like every revolution in the last 100 years has been led by creatives.
Yeah.
And you guys are creating your own revolution right now in Revelstoke. And I don't see it slowing down. I don't like ever see the artistic disciplines dying here because there's so many, but I can only see it like exploding to a point where you're going to be like, okay, wait, how we slowed it down now?
Yeah, we don't want to slow it down.
Right.
We want it to speed it up and for it to spread. And, you know, even like I believe in collaboration, and, you know, you're from Penticton, like how can Revelstoke creatives meet Penticton creatives, meet Kelowna creatives, meet more Nelson creatives, Fernie creatives, like, and really start to highlight like the magic of what British Columbia is.
And I couldn't agree more. I think that would be a really cool thing to see, is like we've been mentioning it, the artists that we've interviewed, because I host events. I would like to host, as I'm steering away from music events, which is what I've done for 26 years, I want to dive into the arts and host an art show and bring artists that I've met from the show that I've interviewed, whose stories I'm like, this needs to be heard, bring them down to Penticton for a show. And I'll have one of my friends' bands play. And you guys, we document the whole process. We're like, you're choosing your art that you're going to bring down. You may even be making art, but at the end of it, it's just this beautiful conglomeration of these artists from BC who have created magic that nobody will see.
Yeah.
Unless they get out of their comfort zone or off their phones.
Yeah, or making a collective piece too. Like that would be something else.
There's a place in Vernon called The Vibe.
Okay.
I think you should check it out. Shout out to Gail, because she's an amazing person. She has a small little handmade gallery in Vernon, and there's like 66 artists, and everything in there is handmade, from paintings to necklaces to everything. But Vernon is what I would consider the Revelstoke of the Okanagan.
Okay.
Their arts culture and the way that what Gail's doing with The Vibe is like she's creating kind of what you guys are, that like community where it can grow and thrive in Vernon, which is exactly the same energy I get when I go to The Vibe and I come here or go to the Collective. It's the same thing, but we don't have a lot of that in the southern Okanagan. Kelowna is very big.
Yeah.
Its art scene it's got a beautiful art scene. I'm not going to talk bad about it, but it's not as, the community isn't as
integrated, maybe?
Yes, and they're not willing, because it is more of a beach capital. Like it's the tourist capital, where it's the Kelowna. Nobody's caring about art. They're there for the beaches, or they're there for the wineries. Penticton is more artsy based, where they have like 3 smaller galleries and then the Penticton Art Gallery, but the galleries can be a bit cliquey with who gets put in, and that's where it's like I like to see the vibe.
Yeah.
Or like I like to see the co-op, and like it should never be, you're not part of this art group, you go find somewhere kind of a thing. But I definitely have seen that in other places. Revelstoke doesn't have that, and I love this place so much.
Awesome.
If you had any advice to give a creative, I'm not going to pick a specific discipline because you're a genius. If you had any advice to give a creative who wanted to start a career, what advice would you give them?
That's a good one. I mean, again, I come back to the, like, don't lose the sense of play. Don't lose the sense of experimentation, discovery. Don't be afraid to reach out to other artists and collaborate or learn from them, have mentors, things like that. I think those things are super important. Don't get too carried away with being judged, because, you know, everything you ever make, there's a judge on the other side of it. Sometimes the audience might think it's really amazing. Sometimes the audience might think it's not. Don't get carried away with any of that. Just do it because it's an amazing thing to do, and it's going to bring you, you know, so much happiness over the course of your entire life.
I think it's very valuable knowledge, especially from someone who's built such a beautiful career.
Thank you.
And like, you've seen some amazing things. You've seen amazing moments in history that nobody else has got to capture. And you've got to experience that. So it's been an absolute honor to sit and pick your mind and
Thanks,
spend
Rob.
time with you, Rob.
It's been great to hang out with you guys today.
everyone recommended you, and I am beyond thankful that I got to spend some time
fun.
with you today. So
Well, now you're going to have to come back in the winter too, and
I might end up just like
shred
swing
you around
myself,
town,
right? I
yeah.
might just like try and clone myself and leave a version here because I love Revelstoke.
Okay.
So if you would like to be a guest on the show, there will be a QR code at the bottom of the screen that you can scan. It'll take you to a form to fill out, and we will be in contact with you. From everyone at TELUS Storyhive, I'm Rob O'Day, and we'll catch you guys next time.